Good morning, everybody. It's Keeping It Real Estate with Gavin and Nici. Good morning, Nici.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to talk, this one's for the buyers out there. We're going to talk a little bit about home inspections because it's definitely something that we've seen a return to. Remember, folks, there was a time when buyers, when they were writing offers to be competitive, were maybe skipping a home inspection inclusion in their offer. And now we're seeing a return to still being competitive as a buyer, but putting that home inspection in your offer.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to do that.
Absolutely.
Now, do you ever, because I understand obviously that's something that a buyer would do, but do sellers ever kind of consult with that before maybe even listing it, just to kind of have an idea of what they're going into?
That's a great question, Nici. So sometimes if sellers, especially if maybe they don't own the home or they own the home, but maybe they never lived there, maybe they inherited it in an estate and they're not really familiar with the home, sometimes we recommend a pre-listing home inspection so that they understand what's going on with the home and maybe get ahead of some fixes. And that's really what the theme is all about today. Buying a home is really exciting. The inspection is not just about what's wrong with the house. It's about find a house that's perfect. Good luck. It's not going to happen. I think it's more about getting to know the home.
Okay.
Because there's no perfect home out there. And trust me, if I've been part of so many, and I love a home inspection. I'm all about a home inspection because you learn about the house and its nuances. And especially for new home buyers or first-time home buyers, you might not really understand the mechanics of a home and what that's like and what the maintenance is. And so this is a really important piece to get involved and understand the home more. So that's really what this is about. It's not punitive. It's not about going after a seller to, get light bulbs fixed. It's about really understanding what you're buying. So this is my theme today. It's exciting to buy a home. The inspection tells you what you're really buying.
Yeah.
And so in that effort, and again, I'm not a home inspector, but these are the 10 questions I would recommend that you ask during a home inspection or you learn about during that home inspection so that you really get to know your home and know what you're buying.
Okay.
That's what I want to break down today. So a little background with a home inspection for those of you that have never been through one. So you make your offer on your home, and if you've included a home inspection in your offer and if the seller has accepted it, congratulations. That's like hurdle number 1 in the process. But now we got to go through the home inspection. And for those of you who have not been through one, it's good to understand that a home inspection isn't pass or fail.
It just gives you awareness.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's not a home inspection that's ever been done that isn't a multi-page document that tells you about the house. It doesn't mean those are the things that are wrong with it. It's really talking about the safety, the maintenance, and the budgeting required for a home.
Yep.
So it's not pass or fail. I've heard buyers say, well, it didn't pass inspection, so I'm canceling the contract. It's not a pass or fail thing. You may have found that there was more maintenance to the home or upkeep than you wanted to do, and therefore the home inspection was not satisfactory to you.
Yep.
And maybe the seller wasn't willing to make any compromise, concessions, or repairs, and therefore you decided then to cancel the contract. But there's no pass or fail with an inspection.
Okay.
It's really about getting to know the home. So here's the questions and the red flags of what to do when you're in that. So how to work the inspection. I say when we have a home inspection as your buyer's agent, I always attend that inspection.
You do? Do we, as the buyer,
yes,
attend that inspection?
I encourage you to be there, to be present, to ask questions, and take photos. It's overwhelming. You're going to be there for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Are there circumstances where my buyer is not available? Maybe they're out of state. Yes, but I've also done those things virtually for them. So I always attend my buyer's home inspection.
Okay.
And maybe 9 times out of 10, my buyer's there with me physically. Sometimes they bring family member or their spouse or whomever because it's a lot of information.
Right.
And you want to sometimes take notes and things like that because are you going to remember everything?
No. Absolutely not.
And you really need to be in the moment. And the great thing about the home inspectors with whom I work, they're going to give you an amazing detailed report. So don't feel like, take notes and take photos if you want to, but don't do that and miss out on the critical information that home inspector is sharing with you in the moment because they are going to follow up with a report.
Yep.
Okay? But do what works for you. And that's why, if you and a partner are buying the home or maybe you're bringing a family member, it's nice to have 2 sets of ears. And that's why I'm there, too, because you have a 3rd set, right?
Yes.
So inspectors identify issues. and specialists create, and price repairs. And what I mean by that is home inspectors are going to say, I feel like there's a little water damage here. Or maybe I'm seeing something that looks like organic growth. They're not going to say, and it's going to be this much to repair that. They're then going to say, this is something that you're going to probably want to get looked at, so contact a specialist who maybe deals with mold remediation, for example, to give you a price on what that might cost. So inspectors are going to point out an issue, or maybe they're going to say, this furnace is working functional and great today, but you might have 5 to 10 more years on it.
Okay.
So maybe now is the time to start budgeting for that. So then to really get a price on a repair, you need to go to a specialist. And so a lot of times after a home inspection, I have my buyers working with me to then say, okay, well, what does that cost? What's a new furnace going to cost? Because if the seller's not willing to make the repair or replace the furnace for us, we need to know what you're buying now.
On top of.
That's right, because maybe you're not replacing the furnace week 1 when you get in the home, but you should be planning for it, and what's that going to cost you?
Okay.
So inspectors identify issues, specialists price the repairs.
Got it.
That's
Good to know.
the difference there, right? What your inspector is going to look at is that they're going to prioritize that report that they send to you. That's really important, because if you just go by the magnitude and the list of things they talk to you about, and you think that's all the same priority, you're going to think there's a lot of things wrong with this house.
Yeah.
And that's not it.
Overwhelmed.
That's why you need to get the report back, and they're going to prioritize for you in terms of safety, what's a structural issue, maybe there's water damage, where does it fit in the major systems of the house, what are the big ticket items. Those are the things that they're going to talk about. And that's why waiting the next 24 to 48 hours after a home inspection to receive that report from the inspector is important. And also working with your agent, and that's why I attend my clients' home inspections, is to really put into context what these issues are. Is it a light bulb that needs to be changed?
Right.
Is it a outlet that needs to be changed? That's not a big ticket item. It's something that commonly comes up in a home inspection. Is it something like the furnace is about to go and is not working? That's a bigger ticket item. So you need the home inspector and a seasoned real estate agent to give you some context as to what the severity of these items are. But if any of these items are a deal breaker for you, again, the home inspection might not be satisfactory and you might walk away. If there's a foundation issue that you can't circumvent, etc. Those are different issues, and that's why the prioritization of the items in the report that you receive from your home inspector a couple days later are important.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here's a couple of my questions, my 10 questions that I think are really important to ask. What to ask, why it matters, why the red flags are, and what the next step is. So number 1, I think a big thing to ask, even before you even go look at a home, and certainly during the home inspection, is how old is the roof? And has it ever leaked?
Okay.
Because that's a big ticket item, right? So how old is the roof? Has it ever leaked? And why are we asking the question? Water equals mold and rot, right? And roofs are those big ticket items. They can cost, depending on the size of the home, the material used, where we are in the market, it can be $20,000 plus for a home, for a roof replacement. Maybe a repair is needed, but that's a big ticket item, right?
Okay.
So the roof is of the highest importance, okay? And you might have a gourmet kitchen up in that place, right?
Yeah.
But if the roof is crap and it's leaking, we have a problem. So that may be something you may or may not even want to put an offer on. But if we got to the home inspection and the inspector's pointing that out, that's something to consider. So what are the red flags associated with that? And again, we are all sort of layman's. I am not a home inspector. Your home inspector is the expert here. But if we're seeing missing or curling shingles or soft decking on the roof or attic stains like in the walls, you're seeing water penetration and stains, or bad flashing or venting, that's a red flag that there might be a roof issue. Again, your home inspector is going to tell you.
Good to know.
And then what do? Remember, we said the inspector is pointing out issues. The specialists understand the repairs. Then the next step is to talk to a roofer for an evaluation and to see if it's a repair versus a replacement and all those things. Okay, so again, the inspector points out the issue. The specialist is going to point out what it's going to cost for the repair and what the repair is.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing to ask in a home inspection is, are there any structural issues in the home?
Like,
Okay.
for example?
So you ask for, are there foundation cracks?
Okay.
And if there are foundation cracks, not all are a deal breaker, but what is the size and direction of them? Your home inspector is going to speak to that. Are there bowing walls? Like, are they sort of bowing out and curving? Are there joist issues? Are the floors sloping? Those are things that may speak to structural issues. Now, we also know in the Glow region, we have an aging inventory of home. So we're going to see some sloping and things like that anyway. And that doesn't mean that that's a structural issue, but your home inspector can speak to that.
Okay.
Why do we care about that? Safety, insurance, and your resale, ultimately.
Yeah.
So what should we be looking for with your home inspector? Horizontal cracks, displaced blocks in your foundation, and maybe some like do-it-yourself jack posts and things like that. Again, not all are bad. Your home inspector is going to speak to it. So your next step is that maybe it needs a structural engineer. A lot of times that's a next step if there's something severe there. At that point in time, if there's something that's so overwhelming that the home inspector has brought to light, sometimes the buyers are like, I'm just not up for this. Maybe this isn't the home for me. But that's a discussion with your agent. The next question I would recommend during a home inspection is, what seasonal maintenance should I plan for?
Oh.
Okay, and in our area, we know we've got 4 seasons, and so all of them bring something different. So you should ask about the HVAC services, the heating and the cooling systems. Are there filters? Is the chimney replaced or fireplace need cleaning and maintenance? Is there a sprinkler system in this house? Sometimes there are, not always. That's more of a commercial thing. What's the winterization process here? So ask the home inspector those things. And why do we ask that? We want to prevent system failures. We want to make sure that you're building maintenance into your budget and your calendar. Because if this becomes a home that requires a lot of seasonal maintenance, it might not be the home for you.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to ask those questions now. Red flags that your home inspector is going to bring to light. If there's no service records at the home, ask the listing agent and the seller, do you have a record of last when you serviced the furnace and things like that? Clogged gutters, dirty filters. If it's not well maintained, you might be inheriting some issues. You might not be. It could be something that maybe that seller, for whatever reason, couldn't get to those repairs. Maybe it's an estate. But that's why you're asking these questions, and that's why you're having a home inspection. So it'd be important to create a 12-month schedule for yourself to know what it's going to take to maintain this home, to see if this is really the home for you. Again, it's about getting to know your home and getting to know if your lifestyle is going to accommodate this home and vice versa, right?
Good question. I like it. Okay.
Next question I would ask is, are there any pest issues? Are animals or pests getting into the home? And so, in our area, we don't have things like termites per se. The South does, but we have things like bats once in a while. Squirrels.
Huge.
If you've got black walnut trees, you know what I'm talking about. So, ask about the attic and the soffits. Ask about crawl spaces. Ask about any penetrations in the roof or siding gaps where animals or rodents might be getting in. Your home inspector is going to key into those things. And why do you want to ask about that? Because critters can cause wiring damage, moisture, and health issues for you. So, if you see droppings, gnaw marks, or torn screens in the insulation kind of getting, gnawed up, those are things to pay attention to, and your inspector is going to bring to light. So you want to make sure that you've got a well-sealed home, that there's exclusions, that you've got everything nice and sealed up. And if the home isn't there at that point in time, are you willing to do that maintenance yourself if the seller's not going to help you with that? Okay. Next question would be, is there any evidence of mold or chronic moisture? Now, as a real estate agent who is not a licensed home inspector, nor am I somebody that is a mold or organic growth expert, I can't speak to that. You might say as a buyer, I see mold there. I can't attest to the fact that it is because I don't have a license and I'm not an expert in that, right?
Yeah.
But you want to ask and see what's visible to the naked eye or untrained eye, what's available. So you want to ask, sometimes home inspectors will do moisture meter readings, and you want to look at the bathroom and attic ventilation, and you kind of sense any musty areas. I don't know a basement that doesn't run a dehumidifier in our area, right?
Yeah.
That's usually an automatically musty area, but is everything ventilated properly? And why do we ask that? The health and the costly, expensive remediation if we find something like that, especially if the seller isn't willing to help you with that. So we need to find the source of the moisture and the source of the water, and your home inspector is going to help you do that. So things to look for with your home inspector. Are there stained sheathing or joists at the home? Do we see active leaks? Are there no bathroom fans? Things like that. That's what you want to look for. And so then your next place would be to fix it and work with a specialist to do that.
Okay, yes, as those are one of those things, especially with mold, very often it's undetectable too. A lot of times it can be like and completely again, hidden in walls and different things like that.
Yes, and it's really needs to be in the hands of a mold expert to see if remediation is needed and to confirm that remediation and what the costs are.
Okay, good.
So that's for sure. My next question is, how does rainwater flow on or away from the property?
This is actually interesting you bring this up. I had purchased a house where that was never a thought, an issue, until we had an incredible downpour.
Yep.
And it had leaked in my basement.
Sure.
But never, ever, ever did for the first 2 years until this major downpour, and it leaked down through.
And there could be like an extraordinary event like that where, hey, nothing was going to stop that.
No, but we had to rechange everything after
reroute
that moment
things out.
Because of, we had never even thought about it until that moment.
So you want to know the difference between a once-in-a-lifetime event like that maybe or a chronic issue. So your home inspector is going to, what you should be asking about is the grading at the property, how the land is snuggling up to that property and foundation, the gutters and the downspouts, the extensions. Are there French drains in the home? Are there sump pumps? And why are you asking your home inspector about that? Because water management protects your structure and your indoor air quality, period. And your home inspector is going to zone into that. So things to look for, negative grade at the home, that things are going into the home, short leaders, and effervescence, like lines of moisture in the basement. And your home inspector will kind of understand if that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that happened or was it a chronic issue. So again, if that's identified, you want to speak to a specialist who's going to probably recommend extending the leaders, regrading the property, and really maintaining your drains and having a sump pump if it's not there, making sure that sump pump is active.
That you mentioned.
You got it, right?
Yep, been there.
Next question, is the home's insulation or air sealing efficient? So we have a lot of old homes here that may or may not have great insulation. So when you're working with your home inspector, you're going to ask, about the attic depth and the coverage. Is air sealing in the rim joists? Is there a bath fan ducting? Where is that going? You really want to ask your home inspector about the insulation. And why? For your personal comfort. If you've got no insulation in that home, you're going to feel it. And so is your pocket for heating costs and efficiency, your energy bills. Are there ice dams in the winter months? So that usually points to, and your home inspector will tell you there's an issue there if we're getting ice jams going on. And how can that be rectified? So flags are bare attic spots, compressed areas, and leaky areas. So you need to look for that, and your home inspector is going to point that out. And then, we can recommend a specialist who can talk about air sealing and maybe adding insulation. Blown-in insulation is a big trend in this area. It's a great product, but it's costly, and you've got to get it done. So it might be something that you negotiate on price with or not buyers. It might be something that you're taking on yourself if the home is as is, but something to consider that you're going to be doing later on down the line.
True, absolutely.
Or maybe this is a deal breaker for you yet again. My 8th question is, how old are the windows? And what's their condition? Because age doesn't mean that they're bad, but really what is the condition? So when you're going through your home inspection, ask your home inspector about the operation of them, the seals of them. Is there rot? Are there egress in the bedrooms? Is it tempered glass where it's required? Safety. This is why you're asking the safety, the efficiency, and the cost planning. So you might have a wonderful house, but your agent or your home inspector might point out to you that the windows are old or the seals are broken, and this is going to be an expense to you. So consider it in your negotiation or when after you purchase the home. And what you're going to see if those are issues. You might see fogged panes, fogged window panes. They look a little hard to look through. Painted shut sashes. Old windows where they just said, I give up on painting this?
Yes.
Or soft window sills, because if there's rot there, there's moisture and leakage coming in, and so that's a telltale sign as well. Okay. And so your home inspector is going to point those things out to you, and they're going to point out, repair versus phase replacement. A lot of times, not a lot of people have the money to replace every single window at the same time. You might phase it out, and so your home inspector might say, this window has to be replaced. immediately, that's a priority, but your other windows maybe are vinyl and they were replaced over time. Or maybe it's a specialty sized window. A lot of our older homes in our area have their beautiful leaded glass windows and stained glass, and for whatever reason, they didn't replace that window. And so that's a personal choice as to whether or not you're going to do that. Okay, so to prioritize what your worst exposed rooms are. My ninth question is the electrical system safe? And is it up to current standards? And we see this a lot in the Globe region as well. So again, when you're doing your home inspection, ask your home inspector, and they will point it out to you. What's the panel size and the brand? Are there GFCI and AFCI outlets, the ones that are next to sinks and water sources so that they're shock absorbent? Things like that. Are they bonded? Are they grounded outlets? Your home inspector is going to go through all those outlets and check that.
Okay.
And is there visible wiring? Is there kind of like a do-it-yourselfer thing that went down? You really need to hone into the electric is a really important thing and a safety issue in a home. So your home inspector is really going to hone in on that. Why? Because it's a fire risk for insurance. You might not be able to get insurance on a property if it's not up to code or up to date.
True. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the red flags here? Double tap breakers. If you don't know what that means, your home inspector is going to show you that during the home inspection. One of those things you need to pay attention to. If there's aluminum branch wiring, if there's knob and tube remnants of old electrical services, if there's open junction boxes, your home inspector is going to go to town on your electrical service inspection, and so pay attention to that. And what's your next move after that? Working with a licensed electrician. And a lot of times here, this is an opportunity to go back to the seller and say, hey, electricity is a big concern. Is there any wiggle room here? And sometimes they will and sometimes they won't, but at least you know what you're going to have to do if you continue on with the purchase of this.
True.
And last but not least, my recommended question while you're on a home inspection, buyers, is what additions were permitted at the home if there were any, and what's allowed next? Because you might love this home, but it might be that you think automatically, I'm going to add a bedroom. Well, is it allowed? Can you do it? So during your home inspection, you want to ask the home inspector, and probably you're going to have to involve the listing agent at some point if the buyer's agent doesn't already know from the listing what permits are on file, what certificates of occupancy are available for past work that was done.
Okay, what if there was past work that was not labeled or had a permit?
So, and that happens all the time, but you're just going to have to understand whether it was permanent or not and if you're comfortable with that. Zoning for decks and garages and accessory units, is the septic capacity acceptable, especially if we're in a rural area? And so the home inspector will have some questions and some information at light with that probably will recommend that you need to go back to the listing agent and the seller to ask for more clarity if it's not already self-evident. A lot of times we don't have those permits on file. Maybe the person's no longer with us. Permits, a lot of times you'll see in listings, certificates of occupancy or permits available only per request and what's available on file with the county. So in other words, if it's not on file with the county, they don't have it.
Okay,
and it's not unusual. I'm not trying to raise a red flag in general here, but sometimes this is a big concern, especially if you are wanting to add on. You're not actually able to. You better know that before you actually seal the deal and close this out.
Okay.
So why are we asking? Financing, insurance, your resale value, and any future plans you have depend on your compliance in this area. So you better know about it. Where we have red flags in this area during a home inspection is finished space without egress or unpermitted additions. Yeah, they did it, but it wasn't permitted. Do you still like this? Have the home inspector inspect it. If it's good to go and you're comfortable with that inspection, there you go. But if you need to do more homework with your agent, this is a red flag to do that. So, your next step would be verifying with the municipality before you plan any projects. Might not be a deal breaker for you, but it's information that's important to you.
Absolutely. No, I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to stop you. We went through these 10 questions, amazing questions. I wouldn't even have thought to ask probably a single one of them. But when you're having this inspection done, it's done at the discretion of you, right?
Yep. Yes.
So when you have an appraiser coming in, does the banks ever look at this, and does this ever help to depend on the appraisal of the house?
Great question. The home inspection is the property of the buyer. Okay. So you have put an offer on a home. Your offer was accepted. To include, it's a contingency because you can pull your offer if the home inspection doesn't meet your satisfaction.
Right.
It's the property of the buyer. You do not, as the buyer, have to share that with the seller. If you're asking for repairs, you have to share what the inspector said is the repair request and the evidence of that repair request. But it doesn't then get sent to the appraiser.
That's
that
what I
does not
wondered,
back
yeah.
into that. No, it is in its silo.
Okay.
Okay, great question. So it's your property. And a lot of times, if a home inspection is not satisfactory to the buyer and they end up canceling the sale, a lot of times it dies with that seller doesn't have the home inspection. Now, sometimes I see where buyers are like, I'll be generous, and I will pass the home inspection on to the seller at no cost. That would be unusual. Sometimes the seller will offer to pay for usage of the home inspection because they truly care, and they want to know, why did you cancel the home inspection if not self-evident, and they want to see the home inspection, and maybe now they'll do those repairs to get ahead of it for the next sale. Yeah. Because now we're back on the market, which is another topic that we'll talk about to do a back on the market episode, then prepare. Other things, and I know that we have a long episode here, but other things that are specific to the Glow region with home inspections, radon testing. So radon is a thing up here. So you need to speak with your agent when you are putting your offer together. You may or may not include a radon inspection as part of your home inspection, and that's for another episode. If you're not familiar what radon testing is, ask your real estate professional, ask me. Also, well flow and water quality for our rural properties. A lot of times you'll want a well test along with your home inspection on an offer. The septic inspection. Yes. Okay, again, Genesee County, it's not required. Orleans, Livingston, and Wyoming, it is for transfer of title, but a lot of people, I don't know many that don't, want that septic inspection done as well. It's really critical and important, and that's a different specialist. That's not your home inspector that does that. A chimney inspection, again, would be a specialist if you're going to include a chimney inspection. A sewer scope. Let's say you're still in a city property, but you want a specialized inspection of the sewer. That requires a specialist. That's beyond a home inspection. And a floodplain check, near low-lying areas. These are all things that are kind of an added specialty on top of an offer in addition to a typical home inspection. And so if those are things that are concerns of you and you're going to build that into an offer, you need to do it at the time of the offer and not later after the fact.
Good to know.
You got it?
That was a lot, but really, really good information.
Yeah, it's a lot. And like I said, I am not a home inspector. I'm happy to recommend a wonderful home inspector to those of you that either you're a seller and want to do a pre-listing home inspection, or you're a buyer, you just got under contract, congratulations, and now you need a home inspection. I'm happy to recommend a qualified licensed home inspector to you. Yeah. You know me, I'm always keeping it real. If you want to know about this and more about what's going on in the market, what home inspections mean to you, give me a buzz. I'm Gavin at 585-344-1321. And give me a buzz and we'll talk through what these home inspection questions mean to you in your real estate goals.
Absolutely. And as always, thank you so much. Go Bills. And of course, we'll be back next week.
Go Bills.